I was good. Okay, let's talk about master chain. So I've explained before that I've been lately putting my music through like a mastering software thing where it masters the song for me. But I do a couple of things on my pre-master before I send it off. Now I've explained this before, but I'll do it again. Why do I have a pre-master? Pre-master is so my master, I like to see it as the master should always be kept untouched just in case. So I make a pre-master. And then example, if maybe one day someone is going to master it for me, or I'm actually going to send it to a mastering engineer, or I might, even try mastering it myself like I used to maybe last year or 2 years ago. I can easily just come in and just go, disable everything, bang, bang, disable everything in the pre-master, and then you've got yourself a clean track that's untouched, basically. That's the only reason I do that. It's a just-in-case thing. I would hate to make a killer track and then one day someone offers to master it for me and they say, hey, put nothing on your master. And then I'm like, shit. You know what I mean? So that's why I do that. But first things first, I put a limiter on it, and the limiter is for volume control only. I don't really care about the compression in the limiter, but it's just for the volume. So it's like stage gaining, basically. So at what stage do I put my limiter in? Now, I'll usually put it in when I've got a solid part of the track done. So maybe most of the intro, most of the like melody, or most of the build up, most of the drop. When all that shit's mostly done, then I put the limiter in, and I use the Ozone 8 vintage. Now, if you don't have Ozone 8, you can use any instance of Ozone. Only reason I bought Ozone 8 was for this specific thing, like limiter, because it's such a nice limiter, and because it's got this modern module. So you've got modern, tube, or analog. Analog's obviously, to try and go for the analog sound. Tube says here a smooth feedback limiter with modern precision, but modern is vintage limiting with increased clarity and presence. So it's really going for that modern sound, like that real 2018, 2019, like loudness type of shit. So I click modern. I have tried all of them as well. Modern's my favorite, and it sounds like modern's a little bit louder. I turn true peak on with a 0.5. Now that's only just in case if it gets mastered in analog. That's never going to peak in analog. And then I just slowly start pushing down the threshold. I never just go straight to 9 or 10. I always maybe push it down by to -3. And then I keep making the song, and then I push again, and I push again, and I keep pushing until I hit the sweet spot, to the point where it's really, really fucking loud, but it's not sounding distorted. So that's what I do first, right? So that will be maybe a quarter of the way through into my track. Then, not far after that, I multiband compress. Now this is going to make the song drastically reduce in volume, and it's going to sound really low, but that's okay. We're going to gain all that back. Or you could do this first. In complete honesty, I don't know why I went limiter first. I usually go for the multiband compressor first, but play around with it, it's up to you. And guys, this, I could sit here and try to explain to you what this is all doing, but I don't know too well myself. But I do know that it's just compress. It's like compression, but more focused on an area. So you can compress the highs a shitload and then leave the mids and low not compressed. You can compress the mids a heaps and leave the highs untouched, etc. So let's have a look.
Molotov, how I burn them all. Design the brands, try to drop their jaws, will not accept that you feel offended. Skip every class, never.
Now, all I touch is the threshold and the ratio. You can play with the knee. The knee means just how soft it's gonna if it's gonna be a smooth hit or like a hard hit, like a angled hit. But the threshold is really so. I don't want to fuck with my settings on the song, but fuck it, the song's already done anyway. Let's take a listen, right? Low end. So the low end is virtually gone. How do you know what you want? You just listen. You use your ears. So what I'll do is I'll play the song, and I'll push the low until I get a nice spot. Ready? Push up.
Slowly.
Slowly.
Ready for war packing Molotovs. Ready to script, never keep up, bruh. Underground drum, disperse some more. Ready for war packing Molotovs. Ready for war packing Molotovs. Underground drum, disperse some more. Ready for war packing Molotovs. Underground drum, disperse.
That's a nice spot for me. So that's minus 7.7 dB. And you do the same with the mid and the high. You can also fuck with where the band's
Some more, ready for war packing Molotovs. Dubstep, all the rap we do. Any genre, I bet we could. FF, let the dog go loose. Maniac, about to blow kaboom.
So there's a nice little feedback between the low end and the mid. So it just overlaps just a little bit. I don't even know if that's called feedback, but you get what I mean. So you got the orange like bracket is the low end, the pink is the mid, the blue is the high, and they all just overlap a tiny little bit. That's what you want. You're never going to be able to get it like that because it's just not. Look, this is going to. So that's what I do after I limit, or before I limit, whichever. Then I'll go just a normal EQ2, and this is just a cleanup tool for me. This is not, I do not do my main EQing with EQ2. This is just a cleanup. So what I do is I just roll a tiny bit off the mid. So basically the shit you're not going to hear anyway, you might as well get rid of it because it can, add some mess to this track. Same with the highs. So you can see it's a tiny roll, and I've got a tiny duck here at about 142 hertz. Now this is all while the song's playing. You never just do it without listening to the song. That would be silly. So that's all that is. That's just cutting out frequencies I do not want in my song. No boosting. I've got a tiny boost at 3,292, but that was probably just to add a little bit of clarity in the high mid. Then I go into an ozone equalizer. Now this is my main equalizer because here I can do mid and side EQ. If you don't know what mid and side EQ is, you can either look it up or I could try to do a video. I'm not that good at this shit, but I do know that the mid is like the center, so it's like stereo and mono. So the mid is your stereo, is your is like in your center, so like your mono EQ type, and then your side is obviously the sides. So it's what you want to hear on the far end, like so your stereo left and right. Side is usually a lot of high end hi-hats, shit like that, and then mid is usually I see it as everything else. So mid, exact same thing. I'm cutting out because anything below 20,000 you can't hear, so there's no point in it being there. So I did a cut like 30,000, a little tiny duck at 200 EQ, 200 hertz. And then I got 851 hertz. I've got another little duck, but then I've also got a boost. So I'm sort of like reducing and then adding back up for that reduction. So this is all while I'm listening. It might not make sense, but you got to do it while you're listening to your song. Another cut in the mid, another cut in the high mid, and then another roll off in the highs. Same thing, side, a bit of a cut on the hi-hat, and then a tiny cut again on the low, but then not much crazy shit happening here. So that's just like, this is just like, what's the word? Like, this is where I do the EQing. This is like my main EQ for everything. Now, I put a soft clipper to boost up the volume. Shout out to my friend Horizontal for letting me know that, the soft clipper really helps with the loudness of your track. So I've actually put a soft clipper on all the buses. Drum, soft clipper, hi-hat, soft clipper, percussion, didn't do it on percussion. Vocals, soft clipper, keys, soft clipper. And it really did help bring my track like up there. So yeah, I've got a soft clipper, which is I think at 100%. Yes, it is 100%. But this is going to make the song peak a little bit. So I had to then compress it with a wave shaper. Now, I do not like to compress anything. But I had to for this track because because when the final master was coming out, like peaking like a motherfucker. So I had to then like cut it off, like so compress it so it's like nothing's hitting the wall, and then I sent it through the master, which I was having some issues. It took me a couple of goes to get the final master correct. But once again, that's for a different video. Like, it's personal preference. I know a lot of people like to compress the shit out of their EDM. I'm not a fan, but yeah. So that's basically one of my dubstep master chains anyway. Then I'll run this through the master, and you get the end result is what you're hearing. So I think it comes out pretty good. The master chain will never be the exact same for every song. It's always going to be different. I think my future house track has got a little bit of a different chain, which I can go over. But yeah, I just wanted to show that off. Hopefully that can help you guys to bring out the quality of your songs. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow we'll talk about some samples tomorrow.